talking today about the deep roots of faith. And I want to share with you some of the ideas that Ernest Holmes, our founder, had around faith. But before I do that, I want to share a story. I don't know where I got this. It was in my computer. So I can't attribute it to anybody in particular, but I want to share it with you. It's about Charles Blodin. It's the amazing story of Charles Blodin, a famous French tightrope walker. It's a wonderful illustration of what true faith is. Blodin's greatest fame came on September 14, 1860, when he became the first person to cross a tightrope stretched 11,000 feet, over a quarter of a mile, across the mighty Niagara Falls. People came from both Canada and America from miles away to see this great feat. He walked across 160 feet above the falls several times, each time with a daring feat, once in a sack, on stilts, a bicycle, in the dark, and blindfolded. One time, he even carried a stove and cooked an omelet in the middle of the rope. A large crowd gathered, and the buzz of excitement ran along both sides of the riverbank. The crowd oohed and awed as Blodin carefully walked across, one dangerous step after another, pushing a wheelbarrow, holding a sack of potatoes. Then, at one point, he asked for the participation of a volunteer. Upon reaching the other side, the crowd's applause was louder than the roar of the falls. Blodin suddenly stopped and addressed his audience. Do you believe I can carry a person across in this wheelbarrow? The crowd enthusiastically yelled, "Yes, yes, you are the greatest tightrope walker in the world, we believe." Okay, said Blodin. Who wants to get in the wheelbarrow? As far as the Blodin story goes, no one did at the time. This story illustrates a real-life picture of what faith actually is. The crowd watched these daring feats. They said they believed, but after their actions proved they truly did not believe. So how many of us are like the audience of Blodin? We say we believe, and yet we really do not. I, for one, would not get in the wheelbarrow. I wouldn't even pretend to think that I would get in the wheelbarrow. You know, there's an old phrase that I really like, and it is, praise Allah and tie the camel. So, but the point is that we profess to have faith. We profess to be in trust of the divine. And yet, almost daily, we put it out there and then we take it back. And it's as though we say to God, oh yes, I trust you, but, and the yes buts, because of our belief system, that what you think is what you get, when we say yes but to our faith and our trust, we really are saying, I don't trust that much. I am not sure I have that degree of faith. So Ernest Holmes had this to say. Those who have great faith have great power. And you know, the philosophy of religious science believes that Jesus was the great example rather than the great exception. And he taught that we all have the power, with the faith that he had, to do all of the miraculous things and miraculous healings that he was able to produce. But we all can do that. We all are the sons of God, the daughters of God, the beloved. We all have that if we have the same level of faith that Jesus had. Ernest Holmes continues. Someone has said that the entire world is suffering from one big fear. Fear is nothing more nor less than the negative use of faith. Faith misplaced. A belief in two powers instead of one. A belief that there can be a power opposed to God, whose influence and ability can bring about evil. And Holmes said, to correct all of the evils of the world would be to have the positive faith, faith rightly placed, a faith that lays hold of the integrity of the universe, the beneficence of God, and the unity of all life. So that really is a powerful statement that if we were, each one of us, to have the faith that God is all there is, that there isn't an opposing force to God. If we were, each one of us, to believe that, then the world would turn around. And yet, I do this too, but we stand around and we moan about, oh my gosh, this and that, how terrible it is, things are going to hell in a handbasket, things are not the way they should be, there's war, there's famine, there's starvation, there's abuse, there's illness, yada, 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 yada. We all do it. Some of us more than others. But the truth of the matter is, if we were to be deeply rooted in our faith and in our trust, knowing that God is all there is, and there is nothing that opposes the divine, things would actually turn around. Things would actually improve. It takes a few powerfully dedicated people of faith, a few, to change the world. Ernest continued and said, despite a belief otherwise, we are not going through a harder time today, a longer or darker night than has ever been experienced before. It only seems darker because we have lost faith, the beacon light. If one will have faith in himself, faith in his fellow man, in the universe, and in God, that faith will light the place in which he finds himself. And by the light of this faith, he will be able to see all is good. And the light shed by this faith will light the way for others. I want to share with you just this little story that I found that's apropos, I think, in This I Believe, which is a collection of little essays about people's faith. And this was written, it says, the title of it is Tomorrow Will Be a Better Day. And it was written by Josh Rittenberg. I quote, I'm 16. The other night I was busy thinking about important social issues like what to do over the weekend and what to do and who to do it with. I overheard my parents talking about my future. My dad was upset. Not the usual stuff that he and Mom and I guess a lot of other parents worry about, like which college I'm going to go to, how far away and from home, and how much it's going to cost. Instead, he was upset about the world his generation is turning over to mine. A world he fears has a dark and difficult future, if it has a future at all. He sounded like this. There will be a pandemic that kills millions, a devastating energy crisis, a horrible worldwide depression, and a nuclear explosion set off by anger. As I lay in the living room couch, eavesdropping on their conversation, starting to worry about the future my father was describing, I found myself looking at some old family photos. There was a picture of my grandfather in his citadel uniform. He was a member of the class of 1942, the war class. Next to his picture were photographs of my grandparents, Ellis Island, immigrants. Seeing those pictures made me feel a lot better. I believe tomorrow will be better than today. That the world my generation grows into is going to be better, not worse. Those pictures help me understand why. I considered some of the awful things my grandparents and great-grandparents had seen in their lifetime. 2 world wars, killer flu, segregation, nuclear bomb. But they saw other things too, better things. The end of the 2 world wars, the polio vaccine, passage of the Civil Rights Act. They even saw the Red Sox win the World Series twice. I believe that my generation will see better things too. That we will witness the time when AIDS is cured and cancer is defeated. When the Middle East will find peace and African grain and the Cubs will win the World Series. Probably only once. I will see things which are inconceivable to me today, as a moonshot was to my grandfather when he was 16, or the internet to my father when he was 16. Ever since I was a little kid, whenever I'd had a lousy day, my dad would put his arm around me and promise that tomorrow would be a better day. I challenged my father. How do you know that? He said. I just do. I believed him. My great-grandparents believed that, and my grandparents, and so do I. As I listened to my dad talking that night, so worried about what the future holds for me and my generation, I wanted to put my arm around him and tell him what he always told me. Don't worry, Dad. Tomorrow will be a better day. It's up to us and our faith and our belief system to consciously create the better day. Not just for ourselves in a personal way, but for the next generation and the next generation. Things do not change except when things change in consciousness. When we have faith that there is only one God, and that God is good, then we can really do our share to affect a change. And people tell me, oh, you are not realistic. Well, I'm sorry, but I am realistic. I am the realist, because we always stand at cause. What I think today, what you think today, is creating how the world will show up tomorrow. It's our obligation to the generations that follow us to really believe, to have faith and trust in the wisdom and the power of the divine. I just have one more quote I want to share with you by Emmanuel Tortini, who said, "As your faith is strengthened, you will find there is no longer the need to have a sense of control. That things will flow as they will, and that you will flow with them to your great delight and benefit." So that's my message for today. To have absolute, deep-rooted faith. To know the truth, that there is only one. And that one is the universal intelligence, the creative force, and the creative source of all things. And to know that your thoughts are creative, that what you think today is creating the world for the next generation and for yourself. I love you all, and I know the highest and best for you. I trust the highest and best is showing up for each of you. Namaste.
Namaste.
So I would invite the practitioners to stand and hold the consciousness with me, to join me as we know the truth, that there is only one power, one source, one force, one divine creative essence that goes by many names. It is all there is. It is it. The all. And I know that that one lives and moves and has its being as me, through me. I know that that is the truth for each one of us. We are it. The creative energy, the creative source of all that is. Unified. And as I stand in that knowing, as I stand in the deep-rooted truth of my faith, I know and declare that I am doing my part to call the universe, the world, into harmony, into peace, into joy. As I set aside all my fears, all of my worries, all my petty little yammerings, I allow space for the creative energy of the divine universe to move through all things, to bring into harmony those things that I label as problems, to bring into harmony all the things that I label as wrong and out of balance. I allow myself to know the truth on the very deepest level. I allow myself to be deeply rooted in the truth, to be deeply confident that all is well, and the universe always skews to good. I allow myself to sincerely put my arm around all and remind that tomorrow will be a better day. It cannot be otherwise. And so with joy, with excitement, with anticipation of the miraculous ways that the divine works in each one of our lives, I get out of the way and I allow Spirit to be at work. And I claim it good. And I invite you to claim it with me by declaring it done and by saying, "Yes, so it is."